the field, it was supposed to be all about football.
Soccer. Instead, the biggest headlines have become officiating, politics, and the ever-present money, Gary.
So let's start with the red card politics, Eddie. And I know, I know this is a sore point for you. So take it away.
Oh, Gary, where do I start? Where do I start? Well, first of all, okay, the tournament itself. I think this World Cup tournament has been absolutely fantastic, full of surprises, giants falling, the little guy winning games they shouldn't have won. It's really been a great World Cup, and you know what? No better or no worse than any other World Cup. It's got its fantastic moments in sport, and then you always have the officiating moments that may taint a game or two, even if especially when it gets down to the crunch time. But here's the whole thing, Gary. In recent memory of World Cup competition, there really hasn't been any sort of political elements that are dictating the success or the reputation of the World Cup games. And Gary, this actually did happen. As our viewers probably know, and yourself, we've heard it nonstop through mainstream media and social media. It's this whole thing about uh, the red card gate, the red card controversy. And you know what? And this is all surrounding the United States football team and Belgium's football team in terms of the last game they played. Prior to that game, just for our viewers, we had a key player in the United States team get hit with a red card. And when it comes to FIFA football rules, any player that gets a red card is automatically suspended for the next game. So the player involved with this, he wasn't supposed to play the All Star from the United States. Nobody seemed to complain about it. The United States Soccer Federation did not forward a complaint to FIFA about this particular ruling, so they seem to be okay with it. Everybody seemed to be okay with it because it's part of soccer, except he who shall not be named right now decided to place a phone call because, in his view, he didn't think there was a penalty that justified a red card. So he called up Giancarlo Infantino and said, well, you know what? I don't like the call and whatever else and so on and so forth. Can you look into it? Lo and behold, Gary, lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, FIFA overturned the decision of the red card and allowed the American player to play his next match against Belgium. Let me correct that statement. FIFA came back and said that it did not overturn the red card ruling. They simply decided to put it on probation, that if he ever gets another yellow card or red card, he will be suspended. So they suspended a rule to enforce the rule, but at a later time. So you can imagine the outcry around the world, especially soccer-loving nations, of this particular decision by FIFA. Um, and right off the bat, as soon as you get he who shall not be named getting involved with anything, it turns to crap. So a beautiful game, a beautiful tournament, all of a sudden, as opposed to just having soccer controversy, now we have the leader of a country getting involved with the game and potentially affecting the outcome. Okay, and at the end of the day, this poor player, Florian Balogun of the United States, all of a sudden gets reinstated. And the entire world is looking at the United States now, not looking at them or rooting for them as another soccer nation, right? Just speaking metaphorically, it was a 50-50 thing. 50% of the world was rooting for Belgium, 50% of the world was rooting for the United States. Let's just use that as an example. Just with one phone call and one political involvement by you know who, and then FIFA, the corrupt FIFA president, saying, sure, no problem, allowing that player to play, all of a sudden, planet Earth, 99.9% of soccer fans in planet Earth were rooting for Belgium, and a fraction was rooting for the United States. And who loses in this? Soccer. Who loses in this? The United States soccer team. So if the United States won the game, the entire planet is saying there was a fix in here. Not fair. This player should not have played. Corruption. If the United States lost, 99.99% of the world say good for them. So the poor players, the competitors of the United States, their entire experience and the country's experience got soiled because he who should not be named decided at the spur of the moment he's going to become a soccer commentator, a soccer analyst, and a soccer fan. Probably doesn't know the first thing about soccer, but the individual got involved. So, Gary, look, at the end of the day, Brussels beat the United States 4-1, and quite handily. I mean, we're talking about a powerhouse here, giving the United States a spanking. I personally think the United States would have performed a lot better, even without their superstar, if he was suspended, if he stayed suspended for that one game. I think the U.S. players would have done a hell of a lot more without this overlying pressure and catastrophic decision over their heads rendered by you know who or pushed by you know who. So I really feel bad for the United States Football Association on this. And you know what? They got caught in the middle. They had no say in this. And that's just sad for the sport. And Gary, what's going to happen with the American Olympics in 2 years? Somebody does not throw a ball properly. The shot put goes in the wrong direction. Somebody's, I don't know, bathing suit fell off while they swam. They're going to reverse a decision. And, oh, he should have won the gold medal. That politically, this is going to change the outcome of a competition. What about other soccer teams in the World Cup today that had players suspended over a red card? What are you going to do for them now? Give them a gimme? What's going to happen for future suspensions? So this sent a real ugly precedent for the tournament because someone couldn't keep his mouth shut. So as a soccer fan, Gary, I'm still continuing to be excited for the World Cup. We're down to the quarterfinals, eight teams left, and I'm just very sad for the United States of America and continuously being embarrassed on the world stage. You've probably seen videos of the Belgian players making a mockery of you know who by dancing his YMCA strut on the field in full view of billions of people watching the game, and then thereafter on YouTube feeds of them celebrating to YMCA and doing the you know who strut in full view of the world. Just another global embarrassment on the world stage for the United States, and I really feel bad for the soccer players who really tried their darndest to host the games properly.
But you know what? I know where you're coming from as far as feeling bad, but I don't. You know that? Mm-hmm. It's their circus, their rape. And they, the majority of people, somewhere along the way, voted this individual and his party in, and you've got what you've got. So, like I say, your circus, your rape. Not my problem. I don't feel the least bit any kind of remorse or any empathy, nothing. You've got what you've got, and you're going to have to live with it for at least another 2 years. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? There was a post-game interview with the Belgian coach, and you actually saw on television where Florian Balogun, who was the U.S. player implicated in this particular fiasco, ran across the field and actually went to speak to the Belgian coach. And when the Belgian coach was asked, "What did he come up to say to you?" The Belgian coach said he came up to me and apologized, saying it wasn't his fault. And you can see that the Belgian coach put his hand on his shoulder, and the coach was asked, "Well, what did you tell him?" I told him, "This was not your fault. Be proud of what you accomplished." Now, if that isn't the pinnacle of sportsmanship during a very, very difficult time, where you
True.
have the coach of the opposition team consoling the player implicated in this, who A, not only lost the game in the United States, was eliminated from further competition, but knowing that this entire fiasco was centered around him just playing soccer. This was not his doing, is not his decision. It just, you know what, there's a out of every bad situation, you always have humanity come out on top. And I thought that moment there between said player and the opposition coach basically gives you faith in humanity. As far as that's how I felt. Like, this is the way it's supposed to be done.
Now, following along on this whole thing, a number of the, as they call them in Europe, the football associations over there
Mm-hmm.
have now filed complaints about some of the other red cards that have been handed out during the tournament this year, and also about the
Mm-hmm.
refereeing. Apparently, the
Mm-hmm.
refereeing was inconsistent, shall we say.
Yeah.
So, like, this has just opened up a whole can of worms, and FIFA's going to come out of this. Like, this president of FIFA, he was one step away from kissing the ass of the president of the United States from the get-go, to put it bluntly.
Mm-hmm. It's already been
Anyway,
kissed, Gary. It's already
yeah.
been kissed.
So, when you look at it from that perspective, Eddie, how can this guy have any kind of credibility as president of that organization? And then coming in the first year of a new peace award. Why would a soccer slash football, as called over there, organization hand out a peace award? What the hell does that have to do with soccer?
Exactly.
Absolutely nothing. Nothing. But this guy was so trying to, and it just like the whole thing, every time you saw the two of them together, to me it looked really slimy, just to put it
Mm-hmm.
bluntly. Really
Yeah.
slimy.
That man's got to be ousted. Look, I mean, besides corruption, all of a sudden promoting unfair play, I think that should just push all the
And
soccer federations around the world to get this guy gone, get him
and
out of there, and then investigate
right.
him.
Apparently, aside from the refereeing and some of this other foolishness, the games overall have been pretty good. I caught a couple of minutes here and there of some games. I'm not really a big fan. So, and plus, they're being played when I was doing other things too. So, I didn't really see a lot of them. But from what I have been reading, apparently there were some really good matches throughout.
Yeah,
So,
Gary. Yeah, most of the matches have been very, very exciting. You'll have teams up 2-0 and then end up tying the other team ends up tying the game, goes to a shootout and kick out. It's been a really good tournament. It's the few games were a little boring, but there has been exciting soccer. And again, this whole thing blemishes the entire tournament. And you know what, Gary? I firmly believe that the toughest job in sports is being a referee in soccer, because you've got billions of people, especially the World Cup and the European Cup tournaments, billions of people watching the games, and the referee's every move is scrutinized in high definition, super slow mo, frame by frame review of whether a call is good or not. Which, you know what, I think they do a fantastic job. They will make mistakes, but when you're
sure, they're
talking about
human.
a call going left and either to the left or to the right for a split hair microsecond being caught on slow motion replay analyzed by three replay officials and to say, no, the referee made a mistake, but you can't do anything about it because something happened. Well, you know what? It's very easy to point at the referees. These are human beings doing the best job they possibly can in most difficult of circumstances in the digital age. I mean, Gary, they've got a microchip in the ball to identify whether it passed over some guy's parted hairline that would define it was an offside or not. I mean, the technology is absolutely crazy. And I think this technology is getting in the way of the game and the credibility of the capability of the referees. They are all very, very capable referees. And you know what? When you show a replay up on the screen with 95,000 screaming fans watching that particular call potentially being close or wrong, well, that sets the tone for the rest of the game for the referee. So poor guys, hats off to them. People might say it's a fix and this, that, and the other thing. I don't believe in that crap. These guys are on the spot with billions of people watching. High, high, high pressure on these fellows. And I think they're doing a great job considering the circumstances. And you know what? I mean, you're looking at hockey. I mean, nowadays you have instant replays, and the coaches can object to a call twice a game, if I'm not mistaken, with consequences if you object for no reason at all. They've got to come up with some other system to better protect the referees, as far as I'm concerned, and maybe enhance the credibility of the game itself. But Gary, you know what? If you're now that I know you're finished off with a lot of things you're working on, I think it behooves you to watch a few of these games because quite a few of them have been quite exciting. One yesterday was the game with Argentina and Egypt. Egypt was up 2-0 on world champions Argentina. Argentina scores two quick ones towards the end of the game, and went on to win. It was incredible. What a soccer game. They won 3-2, believe it or not. It was absolutely amazing to watch. So if you can catch a game or two, and you and I will catch a game or two, I think you'll enjoy the experience.
Canadian host cities, Toronto and Vancouver, are now beginning to assess whether the World Cup will deliver the promised economic benefits. Any bets? Well,
how does it look?
It's looking like we thought it would look. Like any good party host, Toronto and Vancouver are probably not coming out ahead financially. So, just to give you an idea, debit and credit card spending at restaurants and bars rose by just 3% in Toronto during the first 2 weeks of the World Cup, compared to the same period last year. No World Cup.
That's it.
And that's according to data from payment processing company Moneris. Now, put that in perspective to this. Are you ready? Bar and restaurant spending rose by 12% in Toronto during Taylor Swift's 2024 Eras Tour performances.
Wow. We're looking at 6 or 7 games in Toronto spread out over 3 weeks. That's all they generated, just 3%. And Taylor Swift's, 3-day concert, 2-day concert?
12.
Wow, that's incredible.
And that's not even taking into account the number of empty hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Because as you got closer to the first kickoff, it was hotels were reporting people canceling, or rooms that were available that had not been booked, still available. And of course, the prices were crazy. And so, they had to start slashing the prices somewhat, but it didn't really, especially apparently in the U.S. in particular, it did not produce the number of people coming in. Well, they were turning people away at the border, for God's sakes.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. So what the hell do you expect? And then they're wondering why they're getting such a bad rap. So let's look at this a little bit more. Spending by international visitors was up 34% from last year, suggesting whatever tourism boost the city saw was offset by locals and domestic tourists opting against braving what many expected to be throngs of footy fans.
Uh-huh.
So, when all is said and done, the parliamentary budget officer estimated that we would spend over $1 billion to co-host the World Cup in Toronto and Vancouver, roughly around $82 million a game. $82 million a game, Eddie. A good chunk of that coming from you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And tournament boosters justified that cost, in part by pointing to forecasts, some sponsored by FIFA, by the way,
Of course.
of supercharged economic activity that now seems overly, really optimistic.
Mm-hmm. Right. Rose-colored glasses.
And some politicians just fell into that big bowl of syrup and got stuck like you would not believe. So, large international sporting events like the World Cup and the Olympics are always pitched, almost anyway, always pitched as paying for themselves. But that almost never turns out to be the case. So, and we know that in Montreal.
God, yes.
So, and we're still paying for one piece of Olympic infrastructure.
Yeah.
Putting a new roof on it, costing in today's dollars what it cost to construct the building in the first place, with the roof that never worked.
For a stadium that hasn't been used in 25 years.
Now, one recent paper that looked at every Olympic Games since 2000 found that they have nearly always been money losers, with costs running well over budget and promised economic gains never materializing. So, you don't host the World Cup to make money. You do it for the vibes. Well, those are pretty expensive vibes. And maybe give your city's brand a bit more juice. Well, that's pretty damned expensive juice. $82 million a game. So
what do, let's look at the future here, Gary. So what happens with FIFA tournaments, World Cup tournaments? What happens with the Olympics? Does this mean that at some point it's going to dry up, where they're not going to be held anymore because host cities realize that they can't afford it? Like what the hell? What the hell happens? It's sad. I'm a sports fan. I love the Olympics and the World Cup. But when you sit back and listen to what you just conveyed, you kind of say to yourself, why the hell are we shooting ourselves in the foot when our hospitals are decaying, or our infrastructure is decaying, and where's this money going? Why is this money going there? I think at some point people are going to start asking those questions, don't you think?
Oh, they have to. They really have to. Take the rose-colored glasses off, because really the only people who end up making money on these, like FIFA is going to walk away with money in its pocket.
A hoard of money, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got that. And then, the Olympics. Who walks away with money in their pocket? The Olympic Committee or organizing committee that's it. Thank you.
Under sponsors, yeah.
Yeah, the International Olympic Committee, is it? So
yeah,
everything is geared and funneled toward those organizations. The money, anyway. And everything else is like, it's going to be great for you and blah, 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 blah. And even if you have to spend money on a new stadium, you're going to get... No, you're not. You're stuck with a facility at the end of it that's going to cost you money for maintenance in the long run, and you'll never really be able to charge what you need to charge to offset the costs of maintaining it. Because you'll have nobody showing up if you do, to take advantage of it, like a swimming pool or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you're right at the beginning of the segment. They kind of introduced it, and you were saying about about promoting unity, and these sports do actually promote national unity. You can't deny that and get away from that. You look at just our Canadian team and how far they advanced this year, and it did bring Canadians together coast to coast, just like our Stanley Cup championships when we have a Canadian team involved. It gets people united and citizens united. That doesn't matter what stripe of politics you follow. Um, is there a price to that? Is there an acceptable price to that? Right? I was quite proud of our Canadian team and proud to watch the game and support them as best I can. Now that's from a sports fan mentality, but how much is too much money? Gary, as a sports fan, I mean, I had applied to FIFA lots, drawing lots to be able to get my hands on inexpensive tickets. I never once got selected as a Canadian citizen, to have the option of buying tickets to go see a game in Toronto or in Vancouver. I know someone. We just met someone in the pool in our building. She had the privilege in Toronto to go watch a soccer match. It wasn't a Canadian soccer match, but I forget what teams. Gary, nosebleed section, $3,000 for 2 tickets. $3,000. And the game in Toronto that Canada lost against Morocco, on the resale sites, these things are being sold $10,000 a ticket. You and I are not going to go. I mean, obviously somebody's going to pay for it. $10,000 a ticket, and in some cases the seats weren't even sold. Where the cities had an allocation of tickets for themselves in Toronto and Vancouver, as opposed to selling them to people like you and I. They sold them to the corporate world for exorbitant amounts to be able to recover some cash. I saw this in an article as well. So
Toronto was
Gary,
doing
how
that.
much money is too much money to promote national unity? I mean, at some point, if we keep up this way, we're not going to have any sports because nobody can afford it. Or unless the venues are already built, you can't afford to host them anymore.
That's where it's heading, Eddie. They're now starting to choke off the goose that laid the golden egg, and you've got it's a form of corporate greed that has filtered into a lot of these major sporting organizations, whether it's the NHL or the NFL, you name it. It's all now about the money and not necessarily about the product. And how much more can we squeeze out of each fan? That's what it's about. And if we can't get them to the game, how much more can we squeeze out of them for their subscription to TSN or Sportsnet?
Yes, true.
That's what it's all about.
It's sad. It really is sad because it's.
And how many of these organizations, like the Canadian Soccer Organization, how much money are they going to realize, like some kind of a, not a donation, but some kind of a contribution from FIFA to the soccer organization, hopefully to go and help promote soccer with kids and getting, various house leagues organized and everything. Like, how much are they getting? I haven't heard anything about that at all. If they're getting anything.
That usually comes from the Canadian government.
But why? Why shouldn't we get a chunk of the ticket sales and any other broadcast rights and everything as the host?
Gary. It's the 5-letter
Why
word.
shouldn't we get a percentage of that to help offset our costs?
Greed at the highest levels.
So we're at a point in these competitions and like FIFA and World Cup hockey and everything. We're at a point, first of all, where the ticket prices are getting crazy. Accessing TV or live streaming is getting crazy, the cost of that. And then the cost of the host city and extra policing, security. Look, we had fighter jets in the air over the 2 stadiums during games because there was no fly zone. And all of the extra security from that perspective, and CSIS and everybody else, probably we had the tightest hook on immigration in this country in years.
Yeah.
And maybe we should be carrying some of that over to the day-to-day role of immigration. But that's a whole other story that we're going to be getting to at some point soon, I hope. But
Yeah.
like it to me, as a taxpayer, I'm sitting here and thinking, really? Seriously? And this smooth talking used car salesman, the president of FIFA, comes in.
Right.
And he had, like Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow just practically eating out of the palm of his hand. I'm not sure about how he was greeted in Vancouver, but I'm sure they welcomed him with open arms, obviously. But it's going to come crashing down. It has to.
Yeah.
They're
Well, you know
choking off the average person.
Well, some time ago, when we talked about this in preparation for the World Cup, we had a little bit of a debate back and forth in terms of being happy that Montreal actually turned down the tournament. As a sports fan, I was like,
Right.
it's kind of sad. It would have been great to put Montreal back on the map internationally, but listening to what you had to say about everything that goes into hosting one of these things, we haven't got a stadium. B, yes, we have a fantastic soccer stadium with the Club de Montréal, Club de Soccer Montréal. Beautiful Saputo Stadium. Joey Saputo was
Yes.
not going to spend his own money in upgrading that. Somebody else was going to have to pay for that. You and me, amongst Quebec taxpayers, having to pay for that. Then you're talking about the infrastructure, the security, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, you know what? I don't think the city of Montreal wouldn't be able to host an event of that magnitude without a significant amount of money poured into it. And look, we talked about the Quebec government and the rampant mismanagement that happens with a lot of our projects here. We probably would have cost out of the three host cities, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and I hate being a naysayer about this, I think we probably would have been the most expensive city out of the three in terms of the cost associated with hosting such an event at the end of the day. So I'm sad as a sports fan I wasn't able to participate in a lot of the intercity activities that surround an event like the World Cup. But at the end of the day, I'm not particularly proud of living in a province that is the highest tax state in all of North and South America, and I didn't want that to go any higher. So I go back to what you had said, Gary. I now agree with you. It was a good thing that we turned down the offer.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
And with that, Eddie, how do you wrap it up?
That's a hard one, Gary. Folks, when people question the referee, they eventually question the entire tournament.